welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm your host, Drea.
And before we get into our really fun little topic here, which I think that Drea really enjoyed, by the way, this episode is brought to you by my mother, who just I was talking to her earlier today, I'm just kind of I don't know what to suggest for today's podcast topic. And she's like, what about traveling? Where you guys want to go and stuff? I'm just like, hey, man, cool.
I feel like especially during this time where I'm getting, obviously you haven't yet, but I'm getting vaccinated and I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And then they just announced today, the CDC just announced today that if you're fully vaccinated, you can now hang out in indoor environments without masks with other people who are fully vaccinated. So me and Eduardo were texting, we're just we're gonna hang out soon. We're just we're gonna be indoors. So that's been I feel now that we're moving more towards that, whatever you want to call it, environment, it's becoming more real, the possibility of traveling. And so I'm the bug is really embedding itself in me.
Wow, so this is really timely for you then. Because this is something you could get hyped about.
Yeah, definitely. And then just on a regular, traveling is so I'm always for it. But right now specifically, I'm yes. But anyways,
always hyped about traveling. But anyway, so as we've been doing lately, we're going to start off with a little week update. So Drea, how has your week been?
My week was okay. I don't really have too much to go over. The only downside was I had to work on Sunday, which I told you, Alex, about this earlier. But we have this event coming on for my work that is kind of this immersive drive-through experience. I don't know if it's common knowledge, the Stranger Things drive-through that happened in LA, but it's it was this immersive drive-through experience where you interact with the characters and you see scenes from the show and there's all these lights, whatever. So we were creating this drive-through experience at the high school I work at for students to come on and see a light show and see all these video projections of memories, and we're making a whole video that's dedicated to remembering a time before COVID. I don't know, it's all sappy. But we had to set up for it. We had to set up for it yesterday on Sunday, which sucked because it's I get 2 days off and then now I have to go in on the Sabbath to work.
The Sabbath.
So I was pissed about it, but it's fine. It's all for rah. So I worked yesterday on Sunday for 7 hours. And then on top of that, to add to my disappointment, and I don't know if you've seen this yet, Alex, so I won't ruin anything, but I've got to say that I was really disappointed with the WandaVision finale, which I think is a hot take because everyone and their mom is oh, I cried, I sobbed, it's so amazing. But I'm and I'm not going to ruin anything, so don't worry. Yeah. But everything that happened, I expected to happen. There was nothing that surprised me. So I'm just kind of I don't get a lot out of it when I already guessed the ending.
Right, yeah.
Does that make sense? So I don't know. I wasn't that hype about it. I'm hype about it in the sense of we're leading into the next Marvel phase or whatever, the next movie with Doctor Strange, which we already knew. We already knew that the next movie was going to be Wanda and Doctor Strange, but there was no big character reveal. There was no character reveal. I don't know what the heck.
So my question then is, because obviously I've been behind for a little bit here because I'm not super excited about the show. So there's that. But is this just a one season sort of deal? Or do you think this is going to be a second season? This is just one season of something that was only meant to steer into the next Doctor Strange movie?
Yeah, I think it was a one season and off kind of deal. At least that's what I've been understanding from everyone else. So it's only this season. That's it.
Interesting.
I could be wrong, but that's what everyone is saying.
I anticipate it taking me forever to actually catch up on it because none of this is a compelling argument for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say up until the last episode, I was really, really for it. I really liked it, and honestly, I'm not saying that the last episode was bad because it wasn't, but there was no I feel there was no pinnacle moment for me, if that makes sense. There was no catharsis that happened within me. I was just kind of all right, well, it's over now,
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. There's that. But anyways, how was your week, Alex?
So mine's been pretty good. I mean, super busy because of everything going on with my work now with admission decisions and stuff. So there's that. So that's been keeping me pretty busy and keeping me pretty fried, to be a little bit honest. I'm just kind of like at the end of each day, I'm just like, I don't know who I am anymore. I spend so much time in front, like in meetings and stuff. I just want to go to sleep. But one thing that's actually been kind of nice, which I think that all the normies would applaud, is that, so I'm not sure if I mentioned before that I have a Kindle Unlimited subscription.
You mentioned your Kindle. I didn't know that you had an unlimited subscription.
Yeah, so recently, like last month or the month before, I decided to take the plunge and get Kindle Unlimited so I could basically just like rent out books instead of buying them, for a flat payment. So I could, like, you're able to rent 10 books at a time, which is, pretty good.
I don't know why a person would need to rent 10 books at a time, but okay, go on.
Yes. Not simultaneously at one time, probably not. I agree, but whatever. And which is really funny because I've had the problem before where it's just kind of like, you've already downloaded 10 books, return something. So as we've been saying, I don't know how one person could do that. I've done it. So
that's funny. The only situation where like, there's two situations where that makes sense to me. One situation is if you're like a student and you're renting textbooks for all your classes.
Sure.
And two is if you rented books and you completed them and then you just forgot to return them.
That's me.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's mostly I'm just reading them in such quick succession that I just haven't returned the other books yet.
Okay.
So that's 100% my problem.
You're not crazy anymore.
No. The noteworthy part of this is that in the past like 4 or 5 days, the books that I've actually been downloading from Kindle Unlimited have been, honest to goodness, not manga, real books.
Oh, what books are they?
They're a bunch of like romantic comedy books because that's my, bread and butter. Eat that stuff up.
Is there anything that you want to like recommend to the pod?
I shall. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were like at the go ready.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So the ones I've been reading lately that I've felt have been really good are, there's one which it just goes to show you like how media and stuff has like changed because of the, era of technology. So the first one is called The Accidental Text.
That is,
which you can go ahead and laugh at. Here's the thing. I was basically in tears in the beginning of this book.
Okay.
Like laugh at the title all you want. So it's about a girl who's like 3 months before has lost her mom.
Oh no. You already lost me. I won't read a book like that.
Wait.
Okay.
So lost her mom, right? And like as a form of like kind of like therapy almost like for herself, she has been texting her mom's phone number.
Oh,
just kind of like, talking whatever. And at a certain point, the number gets reassigned to a different person.
Oh, so it's like the accidental text this new person.
Yeah, so the messages end up going to like this guy, and then, the story unfolds from there. It's really actually very sweet.
It sounds like a Lifetime movie.
Lot. Absolutely. But not as horrible because you don't have to see it.
Yeah.
I think just reading it is okay. Actually having to watch it would be something totally different, then I would agree with you. There's also 2 other ones that I really liked a lot. One called The Off Limits Rule and one called The Match. And those are both by the same author. They're by, let me open the book real quick to find out what the author's name is. Sarah Adams. Yeah, so both of those are by her. And here's the thing, is that a lot of the books I read, I'm noticing, like just normal books that I read, are based in the South. For whatever reason, that whole thing just really appeals to me. Like 80% of the books that I read are based in like Tennessee somewhere, and then the one I'm currently reading is based in Charleston. So I'm just kind of like, I find books that are based in the South to be so endearing.
I feel like this is actually such a good segue to our like some topics I have in our actual like podcast, but I want to save it for a second because going off of your point that you're like, I find that the books that you tend to read are like situated in the South, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Take place in the South. That's the right one.
Yeah.
And I feel like all the books that I read for pleasure are all like horror like horror books. Like I always read like ghost books or like girls who have like overdosed for like drugs or stuff, like really scary things. Like I feel like that's just, I don't know why. And like it's not healthy. Like my mom always tells me this because whenever I wake up in the morning, like, well, not recently. Recently, I've been switching to NPR in the morning. But like usually before that, when I would wake up in the morning, I would like get up and get ready while listening to an episode of like Forensic Files or something.
Yeah.
I was like, that cannot be good for your mental psyche. Like, like first thing in the morning, you start hearing about these murders, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think that my unintentional interest in that whole like area, I guess, is that although like, my family's only really been from like California.
Yeah.
That the
and
way
Idaho,
that I grew
right?
up, well, yeah, but they're all based from they're originally from California.
I see. Okay, got it.
Because like, I mean, my maternal grandmother was in South Dakota for a while when she was a kid. I think she was born there and then moved to California. My paternal grandfather born in the Netherlands and then came to California. And then the most recent sides and like my maternal grandparents are from California as well, or based in California really, because my grandmother was born in Puerto Rico. But point being is that, really it's just California, which, is just West Coast. That's what it's defined as, not like really South, even though we're in Southern California.
I would posit that Southern California definitely is different than like Northern California though.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. That's not an argument. That for sure. It's different. But my point being is that like the way I grew up, like on the dairy and stuff, I think aligns in my
South.
It's very Southern-ish.
Yeah, I can
like
see
principles and stuff.
I totally
not in like not in the super like hick racist way, but like like the slower living sort of thing. The slower living, just being like friendly to each other and all this stuff. Like it aligns, I think, very well with like what I think of as home.
Yeah.
So reading that stuff and just kind of like warms my heart. Anyway. Changing gears real quick. Anyway, so yeah, we thought it would be kind of fun to talk about, traveling stuff. Just, where we traveled, best vacations, worst vacations, dream vacations, and then like kind of I'm not sure if you really understood this when I put it on the outline because I feel like the word I chose was weird, but preferences for traveling. I don't want to say like do's and don'ts, but I'm just kind of like things that you really like when you travel and things that are really pet peeves when like you're traveling with people.
I think I do understand. I don't know. Maybe if I explain the things that I wrote down, it'll make more sense. If
I haven't looked at what you wrote, so I'm just I'm just saying out loud. I'm just kind of like, I felt weird when I put preferences down. Well, we'll see how this goes.
I totally got it.
So first we're going to go into where we have traveled. So tell us, Drea, because I think that you're definitely the more well-traveled one out of the two of us.
Well, I guess so, yeah, like in terms of like amount of places, obviously you have traveled greater distances than me, but in terms of like number of places, yeah, I guess so. But predominantly my travel has been either in the US or in Mexico. In Mexico, I've been to like a few different states. Like, I mean, I could list them here, but do people actually know what these states are? I'm just going to say that like, I'm just going to say I've been to multiple states in Mexico. That's where I'm from. I would spend like summers and winters living in Mexico growing up because like my grandparents lived there and my mom would go to like take care of them. So like, by extension, when I'm a kid, like I don't have any responsibilities and my parents worked in education. So like they had like summers and winters off. So we would just like live down there for seasons at a time, which actually is really funny because I was telling one of my friends from my college about that recently. Cause I was saying like, oh, like kind of going to the whole like topic of traveling. My friends and I were like talking about like, oh, like when we all get the vaccine, when things calm down, like we should take like a group trip somewhere. And I'm just like, hell yeah, dude, like I'll go anywhere. And so I was saying like, we should go to Mexico, la, la, la. And he was asking me these questions and I was giving him like all these details about like the mummies and like Guanajuato. And he was just like, how do you know so much about this? And I was like, cause like I lived there. And he was like, what? like I guess like the idea of like spending, 2 months out of your life, like every year living in a different country is kind of like a crazy thought to some people. But I've also traveled within the continental US. I would like to go to Hawaii and Alaska, but unfortunately that has not happened for me yet. So I've been all along the West Coast. Obviously, I live in SoCal. I've been to NorCal, Washington, Oregon. I've been down to Arizona, which I didn't love it. I've been to Nevada, only for Vegas, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, South Carolina, Florida, and Texas. Those are the states that I've traveled to. Alex, how about yourself?
So it's really kind of funny because like you're going down this list, right? And then it reminds me of places that I've gone to that I didn't even like bother to write down. So like one being like, I feel like everyone has at least spent a little bit of time in Nevada.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Vegas aside, like, because I feel like it's, if you're living, West Coast and you want to go like around to other states that are kind of nearby, you're probably going to go through Nevada at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel. Because like for me, I mean, obviously I've been to Vegas, but it was like, that's where we traveled through to get to Idaho. So yeah, that's the place that I usually go to the most outside of California is going to Idaho because I have family there. Went to Portland, Oregon once for a friend's wedding right after I graduated from college, which that was pretty fun. Got to try voodoo donuts, which this might be a hot take, but I think that it's so overhyped.
Really?
Yes.
I thought they were good.
They're okay. They're just donuts to me.
I feel like it's more of like the experience, you go with your friends, you're like, which one are you getting? You take pictures, it tastes good. Like, I feel like it's like an experience kind of thing.
Actually, now that I think about it more, we didn't actually go to the place like Voodoo Donuts. I think we got some in the airport when we were leaving.
Oh, that is not the experience.
Well, because like I'm thinking about it now, I'm just like, oh wait, we went by Voodoo Donuts and saw that there was like a line wrapping around the building to get inside, and it was like because it's Oregon, it's drizzling, so it's like nah, we're not gonna wait in line in the rain.
That sucks. No, I definitely because I mean all these places I've traveled to, with the exception of Nevada, have been like tennis related. So like we as a team made like executive decisions to do certain things in certain states. So like when we went to Oregon, like we stood in the line for Voodoo Donuts and we were like, yep, it's a good time. Like it was freezing, but we were like, it's a good time.
And then I think about like every time, well, not every time, but sometimes when I go to Universal Studios, I mean, obviously not lately, although I got an email from them because I'm a season pass holder.
Right.
And that's been on hold for this entire time. But then we just got an email being like, hey, we're going to open up again.
That's wild.
It really is. And I'm just kind of like, I really just wish you'd let me out of my contract, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like amusement parks are like,
yeah, I don't really feel, I don't feel great about that. But also I'm just kind of like, I don't want to pay for it anymore. Like it would have been done if you would have just let me, if you just would have let me, I would have been done with it already.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to have to keep paying for it.
That's so annoying.
Anyway. So went to Washington, D.C. when I was in 8th grade. I don't know, like, because obviously we talked about in the last episode how there's been some differences in, school stuff because of, public school versus private school and whatever. Did you guys go to D.C.?
Yeah, we did. We went to Sacramento when we were in 4th grade. And then in 8th grade, we had the opportunity to go to DC. I did not go to DC because my mom was like, I'm not paying for that, which kind of goes to the whole, like, our parents, like, mo money, mo problems. Or wait, no, that's our adult life or whatever. The episode or wait, is it that one? Anyways, I don't know. One of our episodes where we talk about like our parents' finances and how like I always thought we were poor growing up because my mom would like do things like that, which obviously like, she was trying to be just like economically like, I don't know, whatever. But I still get mad at her to this day. I'm just like, well, I should have gone to DC, but guess what? My mom was like, $60 for a ticket now.
Right. So
sorry, that was my thanks, Mom.
Continue. So like a lot more, I guess, states should probably be on my list here because I feel like when you're in DC, like you're a, hop, skip, and jump away really from another state.
Right.
So like Virginia, because I'm sure that I wandered into Virginia on accident when crossing some, border somewhere like in DC because DC is so small. And I remember specifically going to Pennsylvania to go to Philly.
Yeah, and you know what other not on this DC trip, but you know what other state you've been to that you didn't put on here?
New York.
Yeah, New York. I was gonna say, like, I'm like, Alex, your list isn't very accurate.
No, apparently it's not. But yeah, so I went to New York. I went to New York in college, I think I was.
I thought you had just graduated college.
Maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I went with my mom and my aunt, and that was a lot of fun. Got to go to Ellis Island and see my grandfather's documentation to immigrate into the US.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so we have a copy of that somewhere actually, because you're able to, like, if you find your family name, you're able to purchase a copy. I mean, that's like so a photocopy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I see it's my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, and then all the kids.
Wow.
Wait, actually? No, it was the other side. It was my great-grandmother and sorry, let me reset here. Just give me a second. I'm getting this confused in my head. So actually, this is my paternal grandmother, her dad immigrating to the US.
Okay.
I wasn't able to find my grandfather coming into the US. It was my grandma's father and his documentation and his family coming in. That's the one it was. Point being, it was my family stuff. Got to see them, and their paperwork and stuff. And that was really cool. Got to see Les Mis on Broadway, which is, fun and stuff.
Yeah, I love Les Mis. It's probably one of my favorite plays and movies.
It's so good. But anyway, so moving on. And then I've been to Mexico, obviously, because we talked about it more than a couple times.
Yeah, seriously.
And also Ecuador, which was great and horrible all at the same time. But we'll get into that later.
Okay.
So anyway, moving on a little bit, I suppose. Drea, what have your best vacations been?
So I feel like I've mentioned this on the podcast like several times, but I'm always partial to Mexico. And not only is it because it was like the first real substantial place I ever traveled to, but I just feel like when you're there, and you can speak to this too, Alex, because obviously you've been, but like the lifestyle is so different than what it is here in like this, because like here it's constantly like, okay, like I gotta wake up, I gotta get ready, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this, it's just like so like boom, 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 boom. And in Mexico, it's just kind of like you wake, and even like my family, like we were there for vacation, but like even my family, like, they would wake up, like they'd walk to the like store, buy some breakfast, make the breakfast, go to work, come home, like it's just so like slow paced. And it's, I don't know, like that lifestyle kind of going to the same thing that you're saying, Alex, about the South.
Yeah.
It's just so appealing to me because it's like, wow, like we don't have to live this life. Like there's places in the world that don't live this way.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like that is like a big reason that I love Mexico. But in addition to that, it's also like the rich culture that's there. Like, I just feel like I have so much pride in like Mexican culture and like, just like the traditions and the customs and the clothing. And I just feel like it's like so beautiful and so colorful and like welcoming as a people that like you don't have to be Mexican to feel like you're part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also lastly, like the food, like, come on, like.
Well, it's really funny because like you were talking about, the lifestyle and how it's like all laid back and whatever. And just kind of like from my, limited experience when I went to Mexico, I feel like so much of like the day, what you were doing the day was actually kind of centered around the food.
Absolutely.
It was just like the main points of the day, I feel like we're eating and then like you're just kind of like floating along for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. Love it. Like, I loved the food that we ate in Mexico, like, for certain. Like, especially when we were at your parents' house.
The bread.
Yeah, the bread. And then, like, the breakfast, man.
Oh, yeah. Like the beans and the cheese on it.
Yeah.
Ugh,
it was just so good. Ugh.
I know. It's, like, to die for. Like, honestly, like, the cuisine is just... anyways.
Happy.
But to move on from Mexico, because I feel like I just talk about Mexico like endlessly, I also do have like a really special place in my heart for Northern California. And I don't know exactly where it stems from. Maybe because like it's like the first place that I've traveled like on my own for like durations of time. And I think I've mentioned this on the podcast, but there was a summer after my freshman year of college where I went up to live at Stanford University. Is it Stanford University or college? University? Yeah. Stanford University for a summer. I was teaching tennis. I was working for Nike. And so we lived on the campus, like we lived in the dorms and like we were just doing our own thing. And like me and my friend Brooke from my tennis team, like we drove up there together and we just kind of like lived the summer there. And it was like the first time that I did something like independently, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah, sure.
But on top of that, like I just feel like Northern California like really hits a lot of the like points that I like in an environment. So like, for example, I feel like I really, really love areas that are like densely tree populated, and Palo Alto specifically, like it's like so many trees. I mean, obviously like Stanford, their mascot is the tree. So like, I feel like, which is also a whole nother thing. Like that is so stupid. We should have a whole podcast on stupid like college mascots. Sorry, fight me about it. Anyway, so San Francisco is another place that like I love and I try to go to once a year. And last year, 2020 was the first year in like 7 years that I haven't at least been to San Francisco once. It was because of COVID, and I'm so sad about it because it's like a tradition, but whatever, it's fine. The food up there is also so good. Like there's some food places that we found in San Francisco that are to die for.
I think I've only been to San Francisco once, and that was like when I was like maybe like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old. I remember
Well,
that it was
guess
cold.
what? Add it to the list of travel places we're going.
Sure.
All right. How about you, Alex? What are your best vacations?
So I would say that, you know, my number one really like favorite destination to go on vacation is actually Idaho, which might sound super boring. I
It's a
would totally
family.
understand that. But yeah, it's like the total draw of, you know, the family that I have up there, because they live in a town called, well, they're not even technically in the town. They live in Buell, Idaho. And I think that their mailing address is only Buell by technicality, because they live in so like podunk nowhere really.
Oh my gosh.
Because like my aunt and uncle own a dairy out there, is what it is, and everything is super rural. Like I think I told you this before, but there was one time when I was because like the property itself is pretty huge. So like there's my uncle's house, and then you have to like go down the street and around the corner and like keep going down in order to get to my aunt's house, even though it's all on the same property. So it's still like maybe like, I don't know, 5 minutes of driving, which, considering that there is no one out there, is actually kind of like noteworthy to like take 5 minutes to get somewhere. Right. And so I watched, I think the movie that we watched at my uncle's house was Ouija. So I was spooked. It was, you know, the middle of the night. I'm driving back in my aunt's pickup to my aunt's house because that's where I'm staying. And there are no lights out there. There are no street lights. This is like, the country. So like it's just my headlights and a bunch of corn. So I'm just kind of like, well, I'm about to be murdered.
Yeah, so I would feel the same way. Like I feel that way driving up like Covina Hills Road to get to my parents' house. Yeah. So I can't even imagine like how I would feel like in the middle of literal nowhere.
Yeah, this is like super, super rural, which I mean, to me, like has a lot of appeal because it reminds me a little bit of how I grew up. Not that the place where I grew up was rural, but you know, I lived on a dairy when I grew up. So like hanging out at my uncle's house, because I think the most recent time I went up there, I stayed at his house. And like from their living room, like they have a sliding, you know, glass door that goes out to their backyard. And I'm just sitting on the couch and I look into their backyard and I see cows. So, you know,
so does like, it, you know, does it like smell really bad?
Not to me, but yes, probably to you, it would. Yeah. It would smell like manure to me. And I think I've said this once or twice in college when the grass would be fertilized, is that it smells like home.
Ew.
It's a nostalgic smell to me.
That is my nightmare. There was like a really short amount of time when we were living at like my parents' like last house, the one that I always talk about on here. And the people in the house behind us had a horse, and like I was like gonna die. Like I was like, this is the biggest joke of my whole life. And it was like one single horse. Like I could not handle the smell.
I love it. I really do. Not in the sense of that I like smelling excrement. It's just what I grew up with. It's the smell of home to me. And I like being around all the animals, to be honest.
Yeah. I get that.
I like going out with my cousin, like, because my cousin works on the dairy, so I like going out with him. Like, I have so many hilarious Snapchat videos from like my last trip up there, which has been a couple of years already. And like I'm on a tractor with him and whatever, and he's being like a total goofball and stuff, and just kind of like it's fun. Like that's, you know, being on tractors, hanging out on tractors is like my bread and butter growing up. Like that's how it was.
It's really funny that you say that, because like for like when you're like, oh, me and my cousin were on tractors. Because like when I think back to my childhood and like I think about like what me and my cousins would do, like we would get on like my cousin's motorcycle. That was my equivalent. Yeah, see? We would like ride around town on the motorcycle.
Yeah. I mean, and the worst thing I feel like, it's so funny every time I go up there, is like the roads aren't like super well paved. Okay. So everyone has a crack in their windshield. Like it is inevitable that you'll get a huge crack in your windshield. And it really kills me a little bit to see it every time. Like I'll get into one of their vehicles and just like, what happened here? This is a gigantic crack across the whole thing.
They're like pebble.
Yeah. Essentially. Yeah.
That's awful.
To kind of like illustrate like really how small town this is. So like the closest airport is in Twin Falls, Idaho. And like that's the, you know, biggest surrounding city. which I think like has a single movie theater. And
Dang.
like the flights for Twin, there's only 4 a day, 2 coming in and 2 leaving. So like in the morning, 1 flight comes in, 1 goes out. In the afternoon, 1 flight comes in, 1 goes out.
Dang, that's
So
wild.
you can only catch 1 flight in there. Like 2 flights a day, really, but at like one point in time, a single flight. So I mean, but I really like that pace in life. Like as I, illustrated with my love of Southern reading, I guess.
Right.
That's just what I enjoy. So that's why it's so fun to me. And getting to hang out with my family is really fun. So there's that. Mexico, obviously, because we've talked about it so much, that was really fun. I love eating and I love good food. So you're never going to see me complain about a vacation that is basically centered around eating.
Literally.
Because that was the best thing ever. Like, we talked about it so many times, but like waking up in the morning at that resort and just like going to like get food and then laying out on the beach with the margarita and then coming back to get more food and stuff. That was the best.
I know. It's so crazy to think about too, that like that's just such an unreal thing to think about right now. Like with COVID,
right? Mm-hmm.
Like just all this food was out and we just grabbed it and like ate it like nothing amongst all these people.
Especially since we went there we were there and still in January of last year.
Man.
So it's like really right before everything happened. We're there enjoying our lives.
I know. And like I think back to like that first day that we were there, Alex, or the second day, I guess. And like they were having like that pool party thing.
Oh yeah.
And like,
fun.
like we were just like stuffed in a pool with a ton of people. And I'm just like, wow, like that's so wild to think about right now.
It really is. So there's that. And then one thing that I would add to like, I guess my best vacations, which really wasn't a vacation because I was going for school. It was when I went to Ecuador for a week and a half or something for school. That was really fun for a lot of reasons. It was my first time out of the country, which was really cool. And it was
another example of my mother being like, we don't have money.
I was wondering right now, I'm just kind of like, is she gonna say it?
I'm like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, because I know, like, yeah, that was one thing that Dre could have went on because it was only offered to the honor students, and we were both honor students. So yeah, Drea,
I did
didn't
not.
Get to go. Sorry,
it's a sore spot. Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I think it's especially a sore spot because most of our dorm went.
Yeah, it was just me and Corey who didn't go, and like. Granted, like me and Corey, like we took the same Jan term class and we like hung out that whole like January, but like still like it was stupid.
So yeah, it was really fun being in Ecuador. It was really cool, just experiencing a new culture that way for the first time, because that was my first time really immersed in a different culture. And it was cool to be able to flex my Spanish,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was fun. Like when we were on one of the islands and one of our friends was trying to ask to buy a soda, and what she said in Spanish instead was, "Can I buy cocaine?"
Oh my god.
And I died laughing.
That's so funny.
And I corrected it for her. I'm just like, no, that's not what she wants.
They're like, oh yeah, we got that too. That's funny.
Yes, that was pretty funny, but it also kind of goes down on one of like my worst vacations ever. So we'll talk about that next.
Okay.
So anyway, going to what places have you hated to travel to, Drea?
So I have not kept this a secret from like anyone who knows me.
You certainly have not.
But the 2 places that I have traveled to that I just ultimately just like, I will never go back unless I need to or for like a very specific reason is Texas and Florida. Like, let me just tell you, Texas is the worst for so many reasons. And for the longest time, and I think I might still have it actually on my phone, I had a list on my phone that literally itemized like the reasons I thought that Texas sucked.
That's really extra.
Well, it's because like I would tell people like, dude, Texas sucks. And then they would fight me about it. They'd just be like, why? Like, it's cool. It's this. And I'd be like, well, let me pull out my list and tell you why it sucks.
Do you have your list? Because I'd love to hear it.
I know. Hold on. Let me try to find it.
Because, I didn't actually put it like in my, dream vacations later or whatever, but I actually would like to go visit Texas.
Why?
Because I hear that the food is good.
It was not that good, let me tell you. And I've had like, I had the barbecue out there, I had the Thai food, and I did not think it was that good.
Is Texas known for Thai food?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Is it really?
I don't know. I just remember like my coach being like, oh, we have to get this Thai food. And I was like, all right, I guess like this area.
One thing I would ask though, because one thing that apparently is like super Texas is, did you have Whataburger?
No, I haven't. But my ex-boyfriend had Whataburger and he was like, it's not better than In-N-Out. So I'm like,
See, that was like one of the biggest points of contention in my office at Fox because I think my manager, she is from Texas and has like a couple other friends like in the office who are from Texas. So like that would be a debate amongst all of us is what's better, Whataburger or In-N-Out.
I mean, In-N-Out. But
that's what we would say are loyal, Californians.
California crew. Okay, wait, look, I found it. And like I'm showing, like if you're watching on YouTube,
reasons I hate Texas.
Like reasons I hate Texas, literally. So I'll start listing them off. Okay. So you have to drive miles to get anywhere because everything is just, and it's not like spread out in a nice way, like in the way that like we were talking about kind of like rural areas. It's not like that. It's not like a nice rural area. It's just like blank open construction for miles, and then you get to like a shopping center and then more construction for more miles and then shopping center. Like it's not pretty. It's not pretty spaced out. Like it's ugly spaced out. Everything is either a shade of gray or brown.
Wait, like what does that mean? The
like the ground and like the trees and everything. Granted, when I went, it was like probably like February, so it was coming off of winter.
So yeah, there's that, but I also like to point out about your first one, it's not like that place can be under construction forever.
You would think, but it's just like, okay, there's definitely places in California that have literally been under construction forever.
The 10 freeway?
The 10 freeway specifically. Okay. Some of these are just ridiculous, but like I just threw them in here. There's too many subways, as in the sandwich store. The street signs are confusing, and I stand by that because they really work, because they're not like street signs here. Well, at least in the area that I was in Dallas and I was in Tyler, and the street signs are so weird because they like hung vertically and horizontally. Like it wasn't consistent. Like it would like go vertical and horizontal in the same intersection.
That is weird.
Yeah, it was really confusing. Construction everywhere. That's another point. The houses all look run down or need a paint job. There's no mountain. The airport was way too big, and I totally stand by that. I don't know if you've ever been to like the airport in Texas and Dallas for like a layover.
I think so. I think that's where we had our layover before we went like to Ecuador. Like we went to Texas first, and then we went to Ecuador, and I'm pretty sure that place is a maze.
It was so dumb because you have to take like a shuttle to move from terminal to terminal because the airport is so dang big. You can't just walk places. Ridiculous. Imagine being in that airport, Alex, when we were trying to like do our transfer to Ixtapa that we got lost at anyway. We would have died. We would have missed our flight. Anyway, the cars drive so slow. And I remember like thinking to myself, like, maybe this is just a me thing. Like maybe I'm just thinking that the cars drive slow. But then I remember like my coach at the time, because I guess he like used to live in Texas or something like that. And he was like, no. Like they really do drive slow here. Like it's like really taboo to like go over the speed limit. And I was like, ew.
I mean, that phrase in and of itself isn't so bad, I guess, that taboo to go over the speed limit, because technically anywhere that's illegal.
But like taboo,
I know
means
that everyone
like
in California speeds anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what I mean.
Sure.
My experience there was just like every single cashier was like really creepy, like hitting on us, and that could have just been a situational thing, but I marked it down here.
Yeah. I don't think that's a statewide problem, probably.
Yeah. And then also the last thing was all the billboards were torn up. Like nobody was maintaining their billboards. And I'm like, to have billboards to begin with is ugly, but for them to be like really run down, it's just like, come on, guys.
Your list is super hilarious, by the way.
It's ridiculous, I know. But like at the same time, I stand by it because I remember all of this. I remember I wrote it down for a reason.
Because to me, like I'm listening to these reasons right on this list, and I'm just kind of like, it sounds to me like you're just really determined to hate Texas.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong, but like, I don't know. It wasn't for me. I'm not like the type of person to be like, I know there's like really diehard like Texas fans, like it's bigger in Texas or whatever the heck it is. It is not for me, but I will go back. I'll go to Austin if I must. And then the second place that I endlessly talk about hating is Florida.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, I stand by this 1,000,000%. And the only reason I'll ever travel back to Florida is to go to Disney World. That is the only situation where I find it appropriate. But holy hell, I've never been in a place where I legitimately was like thinking to myself, like, how is anyone pretty here? How is anyone pretty in this entire state? because the entire time you're there, you're dripping with sweat. You're outside, dripping with sweat. You go inside, dripping with sweat. Like there's no salvation. Like only like in very well like AC places you're okay. But then again, like you'll be okay and then you'll step outside and then you're not okay. And then like you're just ugly for the rest of the day.
And see,
like it's impossible.
I will jump on board with you there. I've never been to Florida. However, like I've had friends who wanted like to plan a trip to Florida to go, you know, to Disney World and to Universal in Florida. And my whole thing is one, I really don't want to go in the summer because I feel like that's a death wish.
No. Cannot.
But then also, like, I'm just kind of like, I kind of hear that it sucks all year round as far as the weather goes. Like, it's always like the most humid anything has ever been.
Oh my god!
And I know what my hair is like, so I'm just kind of like, it'll be unmanageable.
That
it'll
is
be
exactly
a frisball the entire time.
That is because so when I went, it was like I think it was like September or something. So like nearing the end of summer, and so it was misery. And I went for like tennis, so like I was competing in this weather, which was just another layer of me developing a hatred. But like before the competition, like at because it was for like this tournament called Small Colleges, whatever. It's like a big deal. And there's always like this banquet before the tournament starts. And it's supposed to be like a nice banquet, you know, like they give you food, they recognize the athletes, you know, you get dressed up nice for it. And I don't know who in the right mind like planned this event. But they put all the tables and all the food and everything for the whole banquet on the tennis courts.
Why?
Outside.
Did they at least put like
in the summer?
Did they put up easy ups?
No. Like, oh, we're gonna do it like in the evening when the sun is going down. And I'm just like, that didn't help. I was sitting there in a nice blouse and like pants dripping with sweat. I feel like that's like worse when you're in nice clothing and sweating profusely.
Yes.
I hated my life. I was like, I'm over it. I hate it. It's done. Take me home.
That's one thing that I would say, like, you know, even about California itself, I would never move to anywhere else besides California. I don't think, like, you'd be hard pressed to get me out of the state. I love California. I love Southern California.
Yeah.
However, one of the things I hate most in life is being outside dripping in sweat.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you know, we had to do what we had to do over the summer, like when we had our backyard hangouts, because that's what you do, you know, the social distance backyard hangouts and stuff. But sitting there dripping with sweat for hours was like, it was a special kind of torture. I must say. I can't imagine being in Florida where it's almost like that all year long.
That's what I'm like. Dude, I'll do it for the cause if people want to go to like Disney World. But if like you, Alex, my best friend in the whole world, is just like, hey, I really want to go to Miami. I think it'll be really fun. I'm gonna be like, no. Like, I love you, but no. Find someone else to go with you because I'm not doing it.
Don't worry. I would never ask that of you.
Yeah, and then my absolute last comment on Florida, and then let's go into your Ecuador like fiasco.
Horror stories.
So to add on to the whole like me hating Florida thing, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast. Maybe I have. Alex, remind me. But it was also my first real near-death experience coming back from Florida.
See, I don't know if this is something that you mentioned on the podcast before, only because I just know the story well because I am your friend.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, continue. And this, I feel like, will really just be kind of actually maybe in your preferences if you think about it for the next little segment we're going to go into.
You're right.
Preferences. I think that this informs a lot in that story. So continue. It'll be...
Okay, so if I've told this on the podcast and you've heard it before, sorry about it. You're going to hear it a second time. So basically, when we're flying back from Florida, it's like not a short flight. It's like 5 to 6 hours, I think, if I remember. Far. Yeah, like if I remember correctly. And so we're in the plane, we're good. And mind you, I traveled there with my coach because it was for tennis. And I traveled there with my coach who I did not have a good relationship with, like to this day.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, like we're not simpatico. But so it's me and her on our own, like traveling. and we're flying back from Florida to LA. And we're maybe like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours into the flight. And like the like flight attendants and everything, they have their little bar carts and they're out in the aisles and they're serving drinks and they're serving food and everything's totally fine. People are out of their seats in the bathroom, like the buckle seat belt, like the seatbelt button or whatever, the light isn't on. Um, and the flight attendant, like rolls his little cart next to me and asked me like, "Oh, like, do you want anything to eat?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." And I was like wearing these headphones, which are noise canceling. And so like, I don't remember hearing anything, but I saw it all and it was such a surreal experience. So basically like from that moment of me being, no, I'm good, to like the next 3 seconds, the plane, I don't know what happened. It like just like flew into this field of turbulence. And it like temporarily kind of like messed up. I don't know if it was the engine or I don't know what happened. I honestly to this day don't know what happened. But basically the whole plane, like I just saw the cabin like totally like doing this kind of thing, like ricketing, going back to back. And all of a sudden, like boom, like the plane just drops in the air. And I remember just seeing like everything like, float up, like when you get dropped.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching all this happen because I can't hear it. Like I have my noise canceling headphones on and I'm just watching all this happen. And I was just like, I guess this is how I die. Like I was like, I guess this is how I die. And then 500 feet later, because that's how far the plane fell in the air, the pilot, whatever, like regained control and was able to like steady the plane. But like meanwhile, everyone was out of their seats. Like nobody was prepared for that. So like the flight attendant who was next to me, he had like busted his knee on like either his cart or a chair or like a seat, and his whole knee was like bleeding. Like it was busted open. And I was just like looking at that. And I remember him coming to me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like,
dude, are you okay?
Like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Like I was in shock, I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "Oh no, like, do you need an ice pack?" And I was like, "No, like, why?" And he's like, "Your hand." And like, cause his bar cart was like right next to my seat, cause I was an aisle seat. And my hand was like clutching the little, like the armrest.
Yeah.
So I guess his cart had smashed into my hand and I was wearing rings on my ring finger and it had smashed the ring like to a pancake. And so my finger was like huge. Like I could not get the ring off. Like it was bad. I was fine. Like I was like, "Look at your knee," but like he was like concerned about me and I was just like, "No, I'm good." And I had to actually sign waivers like for the airline saying that I wasn't going to sue them because of my hand. I'm like, "I'm not going to sue you guys. Like, look at this guy's knee." But yeah, like there was crazy stuff that happened. Like they had like pots of hot coffee that got spilled on people. Like it was wild.
I have so many follow-ups right now. So many follow-ups. Let me get a list going in my head on all the things I want to follow up on in the story real quick. Yeah. I actually feel like this is actually the most detail you've gone into when you've told me the story.
Oh, really?
The fullest amount of detail. Because I didn't remember, one, that there was, a flight attendant next to you, and that two, he had like wrecked his knee. I remember hearing about the ring thing, but not that your, finger was like, going insane there. How did they get the ring off of you? Because I imagine it wouldn't have been good for you to like go the whole flight with
No, I didn't. Like I think that they brought an ice pack and they were like working on the swelling, and then like they got like plier or I don't know, some sort of tool that they had on there, and they like pushed it so it was like a square, and then we just kind of like
okay, so
with soap.
I see.
So like they helped me get it off.
Your finger, because I imagine if you would have left it like that on your finger would have fallen off.
Yeah, like they definitely didn't leave it on. Like they helped me. Like I needed help. Like I for sure needed help, but like I wasn't as injured as I think like that flight attendant was. So I was like, attend to him first, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, it was really crazy. And then to like tie it all off, like I was flying with that coach who I really just despise, and I was just like, seriously, like I'm gonna die. Not even with someone I like. Like, come on, Florida, give me a break.
All right. So secondly, it's my second follow-up here, is for the plane to drop 500 feet. And obviously this is a difficult question to ask because I feel like your sense of time was probably a little bit warped in that period, How long were you guys actually dropping?
That's a good question, Alex. And I don't feel like I have an answer because I feel like relatively it wasn't that long. Like in the moment, it seemed like a really long time.
Right.
So I really don't know. Like, I really don't even have an answer for you because it was a really surreal moment that like I'll never be able to like fully explain. You know what I mean? Like it was a Final Destination situation.
And then thirdly, because you said that you had the noise canceling headphones on, so you couldn't really hear anything. Do you think it was better or worse not being able to hear people scream around you while this is happening?
You know, that's also a really good question. And I
can imagine that it could go either way.
I feel like in retrospect, it was probably a good thing because it kind of like, what's the word? Nullified my experience, like made me numb to it all.
Yeah, I can see that.
At the same time, I feel like if I maybe hadn't had noise canceling headphones, I wouldn't have had the like following anxiety attack that I had. Because like I feel like I like went into a delayed state of shock. Like I feel like if I would have been there with everyone experiencing it all at once, like collectively, like I would have like gotten my fear out then. But because like I actually didn't even have like fear in the moment that it was happening. Like I was just kind of like accepting it. Like I was like, this is happening. This is happening. And then it wasn't until after the fact that I was sitting there and I was like, you know, like I was like, oh my God. And I had this like really like raging panic attack. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Like, which one was worse? Who knows what would have like what my response would have actually been had I like been in a different situation. I feel like ultimately it probably would have been better if I didn't have them on. No, if I did have them on. But I don't know. Good question.
Those are just all the things going through my mind when you were talking about the whole thing. But that's the end of my questioning in your near-death experience.
Yeah, so that just ties a little bow on why I hate Florida. Go on, Alex. Tell us about Ecuador.
So I think that I might have talked about this a couple times on the podcast before too, but we'll just talk about it for old time's sake, just for funsies. So Ecuador was really great for a lot of reasons. But then it was also really horrible to me for a lot of other reasons. It started off when we were traveling like in this cloud forest thing, or so it was called, going to, for whatever reason, a chocolate factory. I don't know why this was on the itinerary to stop by, but we did. Like a bunch of people had gotten off the bus, and I don't know if I really did because I don't remember like much about like the actual factory, because I don't even think we went in the factory. We were just like around the factory. Anyway, so in like the cloud forest, like it was really, you know, pretty cloudy, which is, you know, just fog really, I think for the most part. And so we had like the windows to the bus cracked open. And so it was kind of like wet just around, like in the air and all that stuff. So I feel something wet on my ankle. And I think, you know, it's just water or whatever, because, you know, that's kind of what's going on. It's like a little bit drizzly. And I looked down at my ankle and there was a frog on it.
Oh my God, I would die.
I did die.
Did you think, I actually have a follow-up question for that. Did you think, and I'm asking this because I just watched a YouTube video on like deadly animals, but did you ever think for like a moment, like if it was like a poisonous frog that like you were going to soon die after having contacted?
No, but it gives me a little bit latent anxiety thinking about that now. Okay. Although it's been like, I don't know, 6 years. More maybe. I was 19, I think. How old am I now? 27?
Let's not ask that question.
It's been a really long time since, you know, the whole thing. So no, that didn't actually enter my sphere of thinking. It's probably, which is, I guess, is a good thing.
A good thing, yeah.
I wasn't automatically assuming that it was a poisonous frog. So yeah, I freaked out, of course, and it just hopped off my leg and, you know, went on its merry way, which also I'm just kind of like, well, then does that mean it was just hanging out in the bus for the rest of the time? Because that didn't really occur to me much now until right now. I'm just like, well, that's interesting. To probably just hitchhiked around with us, really.
It's home.
Yeah, I guess. But like the trouble really started because like we were in 3 different places really during the trip. So we're in the capital, Quito, and then we went to the Galapagos Islands, and then we went back to Quito for a little bit and then went to the Amazon. So like that's how it was all broken up. So things didn't really start getting hairy for me until we traveled to the Galapagos.
Okay.
So we get there and we get to the first island, and that's all like chill for a little bit and stuff. And I think it was the first day we were there. The first thing we're doing after like doing a little walking tour of the island is we're going to go snorkeling. So like the tour guide takes us and is just like, hey, drop all your bags. Yeah, drop all your bags here and then let's go snorkeling. So get into the water, and, you know, the first thing you do when you start swimming is like, you know, you put your arms out, whatever, you know, to like swim. And I immediately cut my finger from like maybe coral? Yeah, no, on lava rock. So like maybe an inch long cut on my finger on lava rock. So immediately I have to get out of the water. I just got in the water, immediately have to get out, thankfully I have a first aid kit in my bag. So I go there to, get Band-Aids and whatever. And I pick up my bag and see that my bag was in sea lion excrement. Which, of course, all my companions thought was the most hilarious thing, that I cut my finger pretty badly, by the way. And also my bag was in sea lion poop. I could not get off, by the way.
Oh my God.
So I had to hang out with this bag smelling in my room. It was disgusting.
That sounds awful. I feel like because we've been friends for so long and like I just know how you are, if I would have seen that transpiring, I would have just walked away. Like I've been like, oh, Alex is gonna be livid right now. Like I would just give you your moment.
I really appreciate hearing that from you, actually, because our good friends, our roommates that I was there with, they just thought it was so funny and just laughed and laughed in my face.
I mean, granted, like we're here, friends on what are we on? 9 years now?
Yeah.
And at the time you guys were on your first year of friendship. So giving them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they still had some learning to do.
But yes, you're correct. In that situation, it was probably best to just step back from the dangerous bear that's about to kill you.
Literally.
Just take a step back. But yeah, and then we changed islands. So from the main island to the next island we were going to, we had to take a boat.
Yeah.
So we're there on the boat, and the speedboat thing, and I have my stinky bag, resting on my knees, because where else do you have to put it? And I had to accept growing up that I'm just really pale, no matter, what, because I'm only half European, really. So there's that.
Right.
But I fully inherited European skin. So I'm basically translucent. And I've had a lot of, complicated feelings about that. So I've been a little bit lax in my youth about sunscreen. Much to my detriment, because I immediately get ridiculously horrible sunburns, but whatever. So I was still kind of in my rebellious phase about sunscreen. So we were on this boat, right? And I was sitting kind of under the canopy of the boat. So I'm just like, oh, I'm chilling, I'm fine. And that's where the narrator comes in. She was not fine. Because I was half under the canopy, and I had my hair up, I got half of my face sunburnt and half my neck.
My God.
Because my hair was up. So I was Two-Face from Batman with my half a sunburned face.
That's such a nightmare.
It was a really bad sunburn. But the good thing is that when we got to the second island, although I could barely sleep because my sunburn was so bad, at least there was a laundromat that I could drop off my backpack so they could wash the sea lion poop off of it. So that was kind of nice. However, one morning I woke up and I was having an allergic reaction to something. I don't really know what it was, because I don't really have allergies to speak of, but my face was swollen. So I took some Benadryl that I had with me, and I'll tell you what, I was the loopiest I've ever been. So I'm drugged out on this Benadryl with my half a sunburn, but at least I got my, bag back clean. So that was all kind of painful. And actually one of our friends on that trip, she ended up stepping on some glass actually in that island. I think it was Katie, actually.
Oh God.
But anyway, so that brings us then to the Amazon. And one of the activities that we were able to do there was not raft, but go in a boat on the Amazon River, which is cool. But that means that you have to, get close enough to the bank of the river to get onto a boat, which means you have to get through a lot of mud.
You fell.
And I'll tell you what, I fell on my back into the mud. So my newly cleaned backpack was now covered in mud.
Dunzo. It's just time to throw away that backpack.
So understandably, I was pretty, PO'd. And then also, the shirt I was wearing was white.
That's awful. Just adding insult to injury.
Covered in mud, right? And then we get on the boat. And to add a little bit of insult to injury, I feel something on my shoulder, and I look over, and there's another frog.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll tell you, everyone I was with thought that was the funniest thing ever. Which knowing what you know about me,
the narrator comes in. It was not.
It was not funny. I was so mad, man. I was so upset about my backpack. So upset that I was like covered in mud in my white shirt. And then this frog. But you know me, I don't really do like big displays of rage. So I just put it on simmer and just don't talk to anyone at all.
I just feel like, I don't know if it's like because we're friends or because I'm like kind of an empath when it comes to emotions, but I feel like you don't do a huge display of rage, but every time that you're like upset, like I'm just like, Alex is upset.
Well, I think that I have a presence when I'm upset because I'm very like, I'd like to think, even keeled when it comes to my emotions. I don't really get that upset, but when I do, which is kind of like a dangerous level of upset that like is disquieting. Because I feel like my dad has the same characteristic about him, where he's very, happy-go-lucky, like fun and funny and all the stuff. But when he's mad, man alive, do you want to like scurry out of the room?
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, but anyway, so there's that. And then really fun fact about where we're staying in the Amazon, like it was like kind of this research center. So like they had like these kind of cabin things for the students, which we were staying in. And the entire floor, basically without cease, was covered in ants.
That is my literal nightmare. Nope.
So like you try to put like your bags and stuff like somewhere raised so there wouldn't be ants like in all of your stuff. But then every once in a while you'll see like an ant on the wall or whatever crawling across your bed and just like, well, I guess I'll die.
Yeah, that reminds me of, and I know you haven't seen this show yet, Alex, but in Schitt's Creek, towards the end, there's like a character who's living in the Galapagos because he has this like research like job out there, whatever. And he was like FaceTiming another character, and he was just like that character was planning on visiting him. And he's just like, oh, like, don't come yet because I haven't finished lizard proofing the apartment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny.
Yeah. And I guess like the last really annoying thing about the whole Ecuador trip was that when I was like one of the last days we were in the Amazon, I got a pretty gnarly, huge, painful bug bite. Wait, no, that's not even the last thing. Also, we went on a hike through the Amazon, and I think on the first day. And I wasn't wearing crew socks like I should have been.
Okay.
So I got blisters on my ankles from the boots that we had to wear. Like I could barely finish the hike because it was so painful. Anyway, so going back to what I was saying is that I got a really gnarly, huge, painful bug bite on my back. From who knows what, really. And before you ask, it also didn't occur to me that at the time that I probably could have gotten bitten by something that maybe could have killed me.
Yeah, it was poisonous. I feel like that's like the difference between you and me, Alex. This is the difference between you reading romance novels and me like reading horror novels. My immediate thought is it's poisonous and I'm gonna die.
Because like to that point, really, I didn't actually even tell anyone I got that bite. So I could have like keeled over dead and everyone been like, what?
Yeah, literally. See, I would have been like, okay, listen, a frog just touched me. It had this color skin. In case I need an anecdote, you have to tell the doctor this is what it looked like. Like, that's my train of thought in that situation.
Yeah, that didn't really enter my space at all. So, but here I am all these years later. So obviously it was fine.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I think more or less that was it. I'll tell you what, I was really happy to go home.
Yeah. I mean, in a situation like that, who could blame you?
Yeah, because it was just, no one else was having a particularly hard time on this trip. It was just me. That was a series of unfortunate events. Anyway, so moving on a little bit, let's talk dream vacations.
So,
where do you want to go?
I mean, and I feel like we've also talked about this on the pod, but like my main places are Ireland, Spain, and Greece. Like pretty much I just want to get to Europe because once I'm there, it's just like, okay, I'm just going to travel around Europe.
Right.
But those are like the 3 destinations that I feel like I would go out of my way to go to, like if we didn't get a chance to go to Germany, I'd be like, all right, no big deal. But like if we're in Europe and I don't get a chance to go to Spain at all, I'm going to be like, come on guys, I want to go to Spain.
Right. Yeah.
How about you?
Sense. So for me, I think really close to like what you were saying, like doing a European tour, that sounds really great to me, obviously, especially since everything's so close to each other.
Yeah.
Like you just hop on a train and get into another country and that's that. So that sounds really appealing. 2 places that I'd go, well, one place I'd go super out of my way for is the Netherlands, mostly because that is the fatherland.
Right.
And like that's where, you know, my grandfather was born. So like that, you know, holds some significance for me. And also like he still has family there.
Right.
You know, distant family, but you know, there's family there. So like that's kind of cool to, you know, like think about. And to be able to see that stuff. And, you know, I like my Dutch pastries. So there's that as well. So I'm just like, I want some of that. Some of those puffertjes would be dope. Or like if you could find somewhere that sells oliebollen, which is only like a seasonal thing. So I don't think you would. But anyway, I'd love to go to the Netherlands. Obviously, I've already gone to part of the motherland, which is Mexico. The other place I'd have to go to is Puerto Rico. I mean, you don't have to sell me very hard and going anywhere that's tropical, really. I'd love to go anywhere tropical, which is like when you said like Miami, I'm just kind of like, nah, bro. I'd be like, hey, let's go to like go to Puerto Rico or like Costa Rica or something. Like, let's do something cool like that, not go to Miami.
Yeah, I feel like if we're gonna be in a tropical situation where it's humid, I at least want to be like somewhere cool, like Costa Rica, not like Florida.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And then like 2 places in particular I like to go to 100% because the food would be Italy and Japan. Just because I want them good eats.
I feel that.
I feel like even Greece too for that reason, to be honest.
I would also want to go to Japan, but I feel like it's like lower on my totem pole of like priorities.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have a reasoning for it. I just feel like it is.
I think any international travel I do at this point, I'd just be happy to go anywhere for the most part. For the most part. Let's say that just for the most part.
We're not going to Florida.
No, not going to Florida.
All right, anyway. Let's conclude the podcast with our travel preferences.
Yes. You go first.
Okay, so, and these are just kind of like quick one-offers, and I feel like you could probably like follow it up with your point if you want, because I feel like some of them go together.
Right.
But I feel like having a loose itinerary when you travel places is probably helpful, at least in my experience, because it's not like you're showing up and you're just like, all right, well, now what, you know? Having an idea like, okay, well, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. When it happens, that's up in the air, but like those are the things I want to knock out.
Right. So to go on with that a little bit, because that's something I mentioned also, is that I think having a general plan of what you want to do when you're at a place is a really good thing. Not something super strict, but at the same time, if we're going somewhere and we're just like, well, what now? I'm going to be annoyed real fast.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I don't want to waste time, really. Like, let's just do something, but I'm okay with being flexible about what we're doing on any given day, just as long as there's some semblance of a plan and just not like messing around in your hotel trying to decide.
That's the thing, like, because I feel like I'm okay with not necessarily having a plan and just like hanging out at a bar or something for a little while, but like hanging out in the hotel, I feel like maybe not, unless it's a castle hotel in Ireland, in which case I do want to spend time in the hotel.
But I feel like even that in and of itself is an experience that's worth having.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, continue.
Okay. So my next one is, and this is funny because yours is kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
But like, and I might be looking at this through a COVID lens of like depravity, but I feel like the more the merrier when you travel is fun. Not necessarily saying that you have to stay as a united unit the entire time, but like, let's say hypothetically, like we get a huge group of people to go to Europe, and then like some people really want to go to Germany, and like we want to go to like, I don't know, Spain or something, whatever. And so we're just like, okay, well, like you guys go there, we're going to go here, and then let's meet up in the Netherlands, you know, kind of deal. Like I feel like that's fun because like you don't always have to be together, but at the same time it's just like a bunch of your friends are having like the same experience as you are. And so like years later when we're like, oh, remember that Europe trip, like everyone's like, yeah, like high-fiving, you know.
So my answer to that was pretty much the exact opposite. I don't like traveling with a bunch of people in general, mostly because I don't like a bunch of competing ideas for what we should be doing. Like, I feel like when you have too many people and too many opinions in the pie, it just gets to where you're not deciding to do anything because, you know, there's too many opinions flying around. And then there's the possibility of people getting cranky, like, if they're not getting their way. So, like, that whole thing is a real, like, turn off to me. Although I'm not specifically opposed to, like, what you're saying, like, hey, like, you guys want to go to Germany, we want to go to Spain, meet you in the Netherlands. That's not necessarily a horrible thing to me. I mean, it doesn't feel necessarily super right either, just because I feel like part of like traveling with other people is wanting to spend time with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me, it seems kind of counterproductive in certain ways, but then it really just depends, I guess, on how you're doing it and who you're going with.
I was gonna say who you're going with is like a big thing because like, and like this is something that you and I like mentioned a few times to each other, but like I feel like I have a pretty wide range of like groups of friends.
Right.
And so like for me it makes sense for like, okay, well this group of my, like, so let's say like we're traveling and like my sister's friends are coming with us, you know?
Right.
Like it would make sense for me for them to be like, hey, we're gonna go here for a little while, and like us be like, oh, we're gonna go here, but like let's meet up here. Like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, and absolutely I agree, because like that I would understand, that wouldn't, you know, bother me at all. But like if I was traveling with you and be like, hey Alex, I want to go this other place, so you can go to that other place and we'll just meet up somewhere else, I'd be like, dude, I came here to hang out with you.
Well, no, I mean, if it's just like you and me going, I would never do that. But I'm saying like if there's huge,
obviously,
I'm like if there's huge groups of people and they're not all are like our immediate friends, because I feel like our immediate friends would have the same like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. If they're like kind of more extended friends, then it makes sense to me that like, okay, they're going to do this, we're going to do this. Like we have our core group and then like the other people that tag along, whatever.
And I guess to that point is that generally speaking, I don't travel with big groups of people in general. So like that's not even something that like has entered my thinking really. But like if that were, you know, to be like we'd, you know, travel with like Brian and Danielle and, you know, all their crew, like that would have been different. Like I'd have been like, yeah, sure, go have fun in Germany, bro.
Yeah, I love how we're just delegating Germany as like the where they're going.
Well, it was the example that you provided. So
yeah. Anyway, yeah, I
mean,
we've kind of like hit that point. All right.
Yeah.
So this goes back to my point that I made about Florida, but like if possible, and obviously it's not possible if we're going to Europe. Well, it is possible technically, but like it's not realistic. Is I would prefer not to fly. Like I am really like good with taking road trips. Like I'll drive, I'll even like jump on a train, but like as much as possible, I would like to minimize flying because I have a fear of flying because of Florida.
So before Florida, you were totally chill about flying?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. Like I used to, like I told you, like I would spend every summer and winter in Mexico as a kid. So like we'd fly down there like twice a year, every year of my life.
So obviously, you know, when you're going across the ocean, the best way to go is to fly. So like, there's that, obviously.
Exactly. That's my point. I'm like, technically we could take a cruise, but like I don't want to take a cruise.
That'd be a really long time to commit to going across an ocean. And which, by the way, that's stumbling into my irrational fear of
Titanic.
You know, yeah, essentially. So I'm just kind of like, I'm going to be on that boat bugging out the entire time. But, you know, there's that, I guess. Yeah. But then also I feel like, you know, for road trips, you basically have to drive because you get motion sick anyway.
Well, for road trips, I would either have to drive or I have to be in the passenger seat.
The front passenger seat.
Yeah, the front passenger seat. Like I wouldn't be able to be in the back unless it was like a big bus, because for some reason I'm okay in like buses. I don't know why.
Interesting.
But like, yeah, if I was in like the back seat of like a Corolla, I would be like, someone give me a barf bag because it's happening.
Well, anyway, I have no qualms about flying, obviously, so you can go on to your next one.
Okay, so my next one is, and I totally know that you agree with me here, but I will spring for a nice hotel. Like I don't mind paying the extra, like whatever it is, to ensure that I'm in like a clean hotel, reputable hotel. And I'm not saying that like clean and like, you know, 5-star hotels are necessarily better than like the low ones, because I've been to a few Motel 6s that are not bad, but like just for like sound mind, like I just need to feel like I'm taking all precautions to avoid like scabies.
Absolutely. By the way, like you already know that I agree with you on this.
Yeah.
100%. I could not agree with you more. I don't like the idea of staying in a place that makes me feel unclean. I don't want the scabies. Don't want them bed bugs. No lice.
Yeah.
A nice clean hotel.
Plus I just
is
feel
something
like
I need.
It like adds to the experience, like coming back to like a shitty hotel. Like I know this sounds pretentious, But like, I don't know, like I just feel like it's more relaxing to come to like a bougie hotel than to have to come back to like a little like hollow hole, you know?
Absolutely. And here's my thing. I have no problem in this context sounding pretentious about it. Because here's my thing is that if I'm paying some good money to go somewhere, I'm just going to go all out with it.
Yeah.
Because I could just be at home otherwise.
Yeah. And if
I'm doing this, let's do this.
Yeah. And if anyone is like trying to add us about like, you know, like spending an extra buck on a hotel, all I got to say is go to Netflix and watch The Disappearance of Eliza Lamb and then talk to me after that. When you don't splurge on a hotel, you end up drinking dead person water. So
gross.
Yeah, anyway.
Absolutely. And kind of going along with that, actually, just in general, just saving up enough money beforehand to just like really go out on experiences.
Yeah.
Like that's my preference when going into a vacation, and that's the preference I have when like going on vacation with people, is that we're all of the understanding that we're just gonna, you know, do this thing.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Like obviously I feel like you and I, Alex, are like pretty like on the same level when it comes to like travel ideology, just because we're just like, if we're doing this, we're doing this. Okay. My next one is there has to be an emphasis on cuisine. And we talked about this shortly in the whole Mexico like segment, but like if I'm traveling to different places, I want to be immersed in the culture, in the cuisine, in the everything, because I feel like why am I traveling to, you know, like Ireland and getting McDonald's? You know, I can get it at home.
Exactly. And you know, one of the best things in life is like eating good food, so might as well just eat that good food.
I saw a post, it was like a self-help post on like Instagram, and it's just like, you are not like on this earth to only focus on losing weight and making money. And I was like, man, that hit me deep. Like
they right though.
I gotta enjoy this, forget it. So now I'm just like giving in. I'm just gonna be a fat tubby.
Anyway, next.
Okay, so my last one is, and this is one that I don't know if you agree with, Alex, but like for me, I really, really enjoy like checking out the architectural designs of like different areas. So like, for example, I really like going to churches like in different countries, because I like to see the architecture that like went into building it and like how it differs from like American architecture.
Sure.
Like I feel like that's something that I like strongly enjoy, which I know that like my husband and like a lot of people that I know, they don't really have interest in that. So I'm just like, well, sorry guys, we're gonna go to churches.
So I mean, like this, you know, just kind of goes hand in hand with what I, you know, tell you all the time, is that really I'm just down for the cause of things.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm just like, when I'm traveling somewhere, I have no problems like doing, you know, tours and stuff at different places and like all these whatever, like viewing things like that, because I'm just like, that's kind of the point of why I'm there.
Right.
I mean, because I guess what is the other option? What else are you doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
When you're going out and you're viewing the different sites that you can't get at home. So I have no problem with it. I mean, not that I'm super into architecture. I mean, I am to a certain extent. I can appreciate a nice building.
Right. But it's just kind of like whatever, basically. Like you'll do it because like the group wants to do it, but it's not something that you're just like going out of your way for.
Well, I think if the place has art, like historical significance, I'm into it. I like, you know, knowing the history behind things, and like that's cool. I like going to museums and, you know, all that different stuff. I mean, like, I'm not super in love with architecture, but I'm perfectly happy to do it, to view things. That doesn't bother me one bit.
Well, do you have any last points you wanted to add to your section?
No, because really you covered all my stuff and more, because I'm really not super picky about traveling stuff, as long as like we're just doing something that I can't do at home, making most of the time that we're there. Those are my, you know, main preferences when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
I don't like to just sit idly and do nothing.
Right. As I think is like the common opinion.
I mean, but then also like I feel like compared to the average person, I take vacations so infrequently that I'm even more like intense about that part. Yeah, I'm like, I really can't waste it, because like I don't really go very often to anywhere.
Right, makes sense.
And it's not, because I mean, I didn't go on a ton of vacations when I was younger, and then it's never really been a part of my life so much like now, because I just work. That's it. I don't really think that much about going to other places. But then also, you also have to find people that are willing to travel with you in a way that you appreciate. Like you and I can travel together. And it's great. And we have had the opportunity to travel together, and we did, and that was really fun. And of course, the first opportunity we get to travel again, we probably going to. So
yeah.
we're gonna go on that European trip, man.
I know. I'm like, you guys, like, I feel like the podcast listeners just like, man, we've been hearing about this Europe trip for like years now.
Yeah. And it's like, hey man, I'm always down to do it. Just tell me some time and I'll take it off.
As soon as COVID's over, man. Like I'm actually like being like talking real fast, Alex. They're like society, America is projecting that like we're gonna see some normalcy in terms of like the COVID pandemic come this summer. And I'm like, dog, like if we really are seeing normalcy and like there's a large amount of people who have been vaccinated and like numbers are really down, like I'm like late summer, like let's do our Europe trip.
Hey, I'm down. I mean, that's a better time. That's the best time for me to do something like in my working year. Is the summer is the best time. So hey, just let me know and I'll do it. Like actually, to your point, I was talking to like one of my only friends from high school, really. I think I told you about this, that she's been listening to our podcast. Shout out to Sarah. And she's like, oh man, I've been listening. You guys are doing so well. I miss you. I'm just like, dude, miss you too. And she's like, in the summer, since things are calming down, you should just come visit in Oregon.
I'll drive with you.
Washington now. Yeah, right. I'm just like, hey man, if things really do calm down by then, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll go with you. And notice how I said I'll drive with you.
Bring Drea.
I'll fly, but like if we want to take a road trip, like I'll do that too.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like, hey, don't think that I'm joking. I'll go.
Yeah, seriously, like don't offer if you ain't being serious.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like that's what I've been like with like every like vacation idea friends like approached me with in the past couple of years. They're like, hey, we should go to this place. I'm just like, hey, I'm in.
Yeah, seriously.
Just pick a date and I'll go. But anyway, so yeah, that's really it, I guess, you guys, on our traveling preferences and all this stuff, which I will add one last funny note when I was making the outline for this podcast, because Drea and I are very type A and have to make outlines for podcasts.
Yeah.
So like have an itemized, this is what we're going to be talking about, whatever. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this problem, if you want to call it a problem, where you can't decide how to spell a word because you unconsciously have the British way of spelling it in your mind as well. So I titled this traveling, right? And I was kind of like, is it one L or two L's?
It's one L.
And I Googled it, and the American way is one L because I was about to spell it with two L's. I was kind of like, I am not, in fact, from the UK. I'll just delete that extra L.
I do have that issue with the word color. Like, I always want to add the U.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, it just looks right to me. Like, it looks better to me.
Interesting. I like gray with the E instead of the A. Gray with the
E, yeah. I feel like gray with the E makes me feel like it's like a name. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Anyway, so that was a little distraction.
Like, I just feel like I'm over it, guys.
I feel like it's a little bit relevant.
Okay, that's our cue. That's our cue.
I'm losing it. It's time to log off, guys. All right. So thank you for listening to this week's podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Bye, guys.